VII. And this is the first of the sessions that we're going to start to shift more from yang towards yin and then eventually restorative in our last session. Today I read from a book by Judith Lassiter called The 30 Essential Yoga Poses. And you may remember when I read to you from Richard Rosen and how he talked about the original yoga. There are some overlaps in these two books. You can kind of see that they came from the same thought and research process. So she says, asana is the most well-known aspect of yoga in the West. Part of a wider philosophy, asana is third limb of Patanjali's classical yoga system. Asana offers time-honored techniques for feeling more at home in your body. When you feel better, you not only enjoy asana practice, but you also have the energy necessary to continue your exploration of the capital S self, or what we've talked about as Svadhyaya, which is the soul of yoga. When you approach the poses with an open mind and loving heart, your journey remains fresh and rewarding as you make the poses your own. And I love that pointing of making the poses your own. And that's part of what you're doing through that prompt that I've given you, where you're creating awareness about what you're learning about your body as you do these movements. So today you're going to need 2 blocks. And again, if you have a harder floor, you might want a little bit of extra cushion for that. We're going to start in child's pose, but we're going to start in a child's pose with our arms extended. So arms are coming out here in front of us. I have my palms turned up. I'm just noticing the tension places in my lower back, upper back. And I'm trying to extend the breath up into those places. Again, today's poses, I'm going to do a very abbreviated version of them. You could hold them much longer. You could just set your own timer, like 3 to 5 minutes for each posture even. Good, and then from there, we're going to do a couple different stretches here. So I'll turn this way so you can see. So the next one is, we're going to go back into child's pose, but this time we're going to take one arm underneath. So one arm is reaching forward and one arm is reaching out to the opposite side of that arm. And then you draw the extended arm that's forward to come back and push you up, coming onto all fours, re-neutralizing yourself before you go to the other side. So arm reaches under to the other direction. One arm to the side, one arm reaching away from the body forward. And coming forward. Sorry for the scuffiness. I've got the mic right here, so it's probably going to get a little scuffed in these first parts. Now this time, instead of reaching the arms forward, we're going to reach them through the legs, and they're going to rest somewhere in between our thighs and our shins. So I'm taking them from here, and I'm reaching them between my legs, and then my forehead rests on the ground again. My arms, wherever it works for you. Good, and then gently coming out of it onto all fours. And like we did in the other session, your fingers can be pointed away or they can be pointed towards your knees. And we're just going to try and open up that space between the shoulder blades. That's where a lot of tension tends to be held. So we're just going to open up there, one of the common tension spots. Okay, now I'm going to elevate myself because my hips are really tight right now. So if you have tighter hips when you sit and your knees are higher than your hips, you're going to want to elevate yourself. And I'm going to stack one knee on top of the other. The bottom leg could be straight or it could be bent. And we're just going to sit here. So if this is a challenging posture, just sitting like this, you can stay. If you're not feeling the stretch that much, you could come into a forward fold and use your block to rest your head on. So on this forward fold, we're letting the back bend. We're not worrying about being super straight. So depending on, you could stay here a few breaths. Again, I highly recommend that you pause the video, do 3 to 5 minutes on each side. So, after a few 30 seconds to a minute, you may notice that the tension has let off a little bit, so you could go a little bit deeper in by lowering yourself. And then coming out, we'll switch sides. Again, bottom leg could be straight or it could be bent. First, I always sit up. I make sure I've got a neutral spine here before I go into a fold, if I go into a fold. Coming out, we're going to take the legs wide. Keep your blocks nearby. You may wish to use them in this next. So that's literally what we're going to do, is we're going to take our legs apart here. Now, you may feel a little slouchy in here. One thing that can help engage is, and I've talked about this before, you grab the flesh of the thigh, you internally rotate, and you just kind of draw the bone up into the hip socket. That may help you sit up a little more upright. You could put the hands behind to open this way if that's helpful. Or again, if you need to deepen the stretch, you could fold forward here, resting your head on the blocks. And then gently coming up out of that posture, we're going to switch on to all fours again. So depending on the tightness in your shoulders, you may wish to or not wish to do an elevated version of this. But I'm going to do child's pose again, but I'm going to elevate this time. And I'm going to rest my hands on the blocks. And so that's going to create a really deep, again, sorry for scuffing there, on the mic, deep stretch. Really deep across the chest, across the upper back, into the armpit. And then slowly coming up, and then coming back to seated. So we're just kind of working, going from upper back to lower back, upper back to lower back, stretching out the associated muscles. So drawing one foot in, extending one leg out. Again, I like to pull the flesh of my pelvis, my butt cheeks out so I can get my pelvis nice and neutral. And then on an exhale, I'm just going to fold, trying to line heart with knee here. Again, if you do this for an extended amount of time, You could put a block or blanket or pillow or whatever here and rest into the posture. We're doing abbreviated, so just accordingly. Good. And coming up in between sides, we're just going to give our knees a little hug before we switch. And slowly coming out. This time I'm just going to do a couple windshield wiper actions here. Okay. You can feel a little something in the glute. You can always give it a little massage. And other side. And then we're going to go back to this side. We're going to do a little fold again, so maybe we get in a little deeper this time possibly. And then after that, you're going to hold it for a few. You're going to go into a side bend. So starting here, I take my hand, I put it up underneath my Achilles tendon. This arm starts up here to create this nice stretch. Now, if you have a sensitive lower back, this is where you probably want to stay. If you are more flexible in your side body, here, make sure that you don't create tension by going into the posture, meaning that you don't make it worse than it is. You can take your hand over as long as your arm doesn't come in front of your face. All right? Because you don't want to collapse and lose the stretch in the side body. You want to make sure you keep it open here. The other option, if you know there's no way you're touching your toe, you can put a strap on your leg, like tie it around there, and then take the strap, hold it up overhead. All right? We'll switch sides. So first here, just to kind of feel into where my stretch is willing to go at this moment, and then use that as a guide to go into the bend over with my hand. So again, staying here or drawing it over into some version that is best for your body. All you need to do is feel a little stretch. Nothing beyond that. Because if you go too far, you make the stretch receptors kick in a not positive way, and they start to put tension into the muscle, and then it makes it really hard to stretch them and can potentially lead to injury. All the way up. So again, this practice today, super abbreviated. What I'm offering you, really, really, really recommend you pause the video at each pose and sit in it for much longer. All right? Again, up to 5 minutes would be perfect for each of these. 5 minutes on each side, whatever it takes. And then use your transition poses here, like hugging and stuff. You could do for those for about a minute or so. All right, we're going to come to lying on our backs. I'm not going to lie down, because I don't want to scuff up my mic again, but I'm going to invite you to come to lying down. As you come to lying down, I'm going to have you encourage your heart, your mind, all of it, to just find a way to see if you can find some ease in it right now. And then maybe draw the knees into the chest. Give them a hug. Rolling side to side could be really nice. You might feel little tension points on your hip, where the hip flesh kind of starts. You could kind of roll onto that point and roll around a little bit, releasing any tension in those hip points while you're lying on your back. Again, encouraging your whole being to stay soft as possible. And maybe as you're lying here, you're already starting to notice what's new, What is it that I'm learning from and about my body from that practice? Maybe you're learning about the tension in your back or the side body, where it starts, where it ends. Good. And now lying on your back still, we're just going to do one little activity before we go into Shavasana. So the legs are going to go straight up here. And then I take my arms out to the side as a brace, and then on an exhale, I let my legs kind of drop over to the side. The minute I feel like I'm losing control, I pull back up on an exhale. Inhale, exhale, drop. When I feel like I'm losing control, I take an inhale and exhale, draw them back up to center. So I'm going to do that a couple times more on each side. Remember, the exhale is always with the exertion. The reason that the dropping is exertion because you're using your core. One more time to each side. Beautiful. Dropping the feet. And then we're going to come into child's pose. One last time. And this time, as you come into child's pose, if you would like to do a reverse Anjali Mudra, so Anjali Mudra is hands like this. You could come here, palms down, or if you're a little more flexible or you feel like you want to try that stretch without hurting any elbows or your shoulders, you can bring them together. Exhale, come into child's pose, Balasana. And then releasing. And then come to lying on your back. Again, we'll just do a very abbreviated version, having you lie there, softening through the mouth. Softening through the eyes. Maybe the space between. You could use an exhale to help ease into that release. Jaw softens, tongue softens. Making any adjustments. Again, if you notice the back isn't feeling super great, you can always take your legs up the wall, put something underneath your knees. Letting the knees drop away from each other opens up that front of the pelvis, which can help the back of the pelvis. And then making small movements, wiggles, or whatever it is, to gently bring yourself back to the awareness of your body lying on the floor. Eventually rolling on to one side of the body. Checking in with yourself, seeing what you've learned from or about your body in this practice. And then using your hands to gently come up into a seated position. Eyes closed or focus softly towards the ground. We draw our hands in front of our heart. Om. last 2 sessions. The next one will be very much like this one, but I will hold the poses just a little bit longer, but again, you can always extend. I really recommend you do.